Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome back to another video, and as in tradition, sort of tradition, because I tend to do it some years and not other years, we've got my top 5 disappointments of the year for 2024. So I think this is, as with all my other videos of this type, they are very personal to me, and some of you may share the same sentiment, and some of you will completely disagree with some of the stuff that I want to mention about disappointments from this year. In fact, you might even have the opposite feeling, but maybe there'll be some common ground that we can agree on. But I thought it was just, there's enough here, because some years I don't really have enough, and I think that it's kind of that like inherent relationship between expectation and then disappointment. So there's quite a few on here that are quite low. I'll say low hanging fruit, but quite low on the vector of where those two meet, because I generally tend to have fairly low expectations on, well, particularly some of the things that we'll talk about, but I'll mention that as we go through each one. So yeah, there's really only, to my mind, there's one that sticks out by far and away above the rest. But yeah, still, I have enough in order to be able to make a top 5, so I have ranked them accordingly. And number 5. So number 5 is one that's a little bit out there, and it ranks very low because it is number 5. And that is the PlayStation 5 Pro 30th Anniversary Edition not coming with a disc drive and not having enough disc drives available. So I haven't actually made a video on particularly PlayStation or gaming hardware for quite a while, in particular consoles and that kind of thing. I suppose I have vaguely alluded to the original PS3 because that's what I've been using to play some of the PlayStation 2 games on. But the PS5 30th Anniversary Edition, particularly the Pro one, but also the Slim, does look really cool, and I quite like how the controller and the cable is. I know they're just like effectively, and they're not 3D printed, they're molded, but you know, for all intents and purposes, they are just accessorizing your normal cable, and it's a different faceplate on the PS5. But they've released the Pro version, to the best of my knowledge, without a disc drive, so a digital only Pro version. But luckily, your collector's edition does come with, or is it the Slim? I can't remember, whichever one does come with a plate in order for you to be able to match it to the rest of your console once you've gone out and spent an extra £100 on a disc drive. And doing some vague research, because I was quite tempted, I guess, if there was a Slim one with a disc drive, to see about maybe picking one up. And basically the prices were too much anyway. I think the Pro, the special edition Pro one, was like way out of my price range regardless, but I wouldn't get the Pro, I would have got a Slim. But the fact that the disc drives, the Blu-ray drives, the external that you modularly put on, which is not a bad idea, by the way. Like, I think that's great. If you've gone out and bought a digital only, and then you decided later on down the line you want to add a disc drive, that functionality being there is brilliant. But the fact that there isn't this like comprehensive, the fact that the 30th anniversary edition isn't comprehensive, just boggles my mind, and it is disappointing, genuinely. I think as well, there's no like native disc backwards compatibility as well, to the best of my knowledge, citation required. But, you know, and once again, thinking back to the PlayStation 3, for example, they all, citation required, had the emulation software in the console to be able to play PlayStation 1 games. And like how novel would it have been for them to ship the 30th anniversary PlayStation console with a disc drive? Don't know, crazy idea. But then like also with a PlayStation 1 demo disc, or like a demo disc but with full games on. Even if it was a Blu-ray, I think, should it be an original CD drive? But yeah, anyway, like that drive should be able to play PlayStation 1 games. And it should also have come with something that was, like I say, even if it was just like a collection of PlayStation 1 games on a Blu-ray drive or something. You know, just first-party ones, just Sony ones. It doesn't really cost them anything to do it. Maybe they have to pay themselves. I don't know, royalties, what have you. But it could have been so much more. Like, it is 30th anniversary. But I am what, 33 this year. So yeah, it's a big deal. I think I got mine when I was 5 or 6. Might have been 5, turning 6. But not the point. It's still, yeah, there was disappointment once I started looking into it, like from the outside, without me ever really thinking I was going to buy it or look into it enough. It was kind of a bit nice, a bit quirky, and a bit like, oh yeah, it's nice. It's a nice face plate it's got there. But yeah, once you dig into it, it becomes worse. And I think like in there, instead, they've got like a pin badge and the bookmark. I don't know if it's a bookmark or some whatever lanyard, usual nondescript items. So yeah, I think there was missed a trick there. And I think they did a 25 year with the PS4 one as well. I mean, this one at least looks better, but yeah, I can't say it's worth picking up at all. I would probably just go with the slim disc version if I had a gun to my head. But that's quite a nice thing to have a gun to your head for. Which PlayStation do you want? But yeah, anyway, that's why it's made it onto my list. I think it's deserving to be on there. And yeah. And number 4. Don't know what I did that for. No, don't know what I did that for. For number 4, we've got Football Manager 2025. So a little bit controversial. And I've had, not necessarily controversial, I don't know. It is controversial for Sports Interactive to have done this, I suppose. But I was going to make a separate video on it regardless. And one of the aspects for this for me anyway, is that because, I sort of look at how the game and the game engine has moved on over time. And realistically, we're not that much better off than we were in Football Manager 2005 or 4 or 6, whichever one it was. But that was like kind of the peak, really. I know we spent a lot of time with these 3D matches, and might be some people that enjoy it, but I personally play on 2D Classic. So I know there's some people that only play on text. I know there's a big Championship Manager 1998, or was it 2002? Whichever one it is, community. So... which I do keep tabs on, believe it or not. Yeah, I know. I need to be in the Dual Men's Club. But what happened this year with Football Manager 2025 is the game wasn't ready for its usual October to November release date. And they've pushed it back to March, I think, for 2025. Which, is bad because the season will almost be over then. And I guess... It is okay, I suppose, that if you genuinely are adding bigger features, bigger databases, that kind of stuff to the game, then sometimes there are going to be delays or need to be reworks and that kind of thing. But it seems a bit kind of off form by SI and Sega to do this, because I think. I think, and I probably hope as well, to sort of teach them a lesson, I guess, that the kind of bullish attitude in terms of, clearly they've got obviously quotas to meet and partners to sign up and that kind of thing. And I guess that I get nothing straightforward if you're trying to do this sort of thing. However, they should have found a way to release an update to Football Manager 2024, even if it was just a database update. I know there probably is a community-made one. I would have thought. I haven't looked into it because I've not had much time to play Football Manager 2024, but I probably would have got 2025 and given it a bash, particularly if there's some new features in there that I think might be worthwhile. But yeah, I think they're going to be royally punished in terms of numbers unless they really do pull something out of the bag with Football Manager 2025. And it'd almost be the case in my mind just to skip 2025 at this point and go for 2026. So just miss the 2024 release and do the 2025 release. I realize it gets a bit complicated, and I've always felt this way about games that have done that. I don't understand why it's not Football Manager 24 to 25. So it's because it's that season. It's a 24 to 25 season. But, games have, as such, have always been this way, and it's very difficult, I suppose, to get out of that trend when you start yearing your games, and you do know that there's going to be an annual cycle for it. So, yeah, I mean, we may well, I guess if they did that, there would be people in the future talking about the lost Football Manager, the 2025 game that never was, and all that kind of thing. So I don't know if they're then going to do a March release and then an October release. It kind of feels a bit backwards as well. So it is disappointing. It's disappointing overall, just I think for gaming and people who are really into Football Manager by and large. But for me, not so much. I probably wouldn't have even had time to have played it up until this point. And even at this point, I don't. I do have enough time to make this video, though, so that is great. But yes, I think a very harsh and valuable lesson is coming down the line there. And number 3, we've got Dragon Age Veilguard. Now, the next 3 are exclusively games I've either played or I know a lot about. And the least egregious one of all these is Dragon Age Veilguard. So I had, and I think the reason for this is I had very low expectations for Dragon Age Veilguard on the floor. And I think it is because all the stuff I had heard previously was that Dragon Age, as was called before, Dreadwolf, was going to be like a hero shooter, looter shooter type deal. And therefore, the fact that there was any story or exposition or something that vaguely looked like it might be an RPG coming out was a bit of an improvement on that. Obviously, as you know, I did play about halfway through the game, couldn't really do any more, bored to tears really, and gave it a middling score, which it fully deserves, by the way. It is only a semi-okay, not going to say RPG, because it isn't, action-adventure game and then RPG tertiary, but it's a very poor Dragon Age game, and in a world where we have Dragon Age 2, and by contrast, Dragon Age 2 looks much better. So yeah, funny how the world turns in that regard. Or like is it the reverse butterfly effect, something in the future making something else look better than it was, or changing how your opinion on something previously. There probably is a term for that, but not here. The other thing that I have an issue with is very minor and shouldn't really even mention, but if you look at the initials, it's Dragon Age Veilguard, which is DAV. So that to me, on first glance, is Dragon Age 5, but it's not. It's Dragon Age 4, which, like I say, very minor, but it's worth noting that it is just a bit awkward. I think the whole Veilguard thing is kind of a bit awkward anyway. Some of the factions are really bizarre and I wouldn't say are very congruent with how they're portrayed previously. Even the Grey Wardens, who I think have been done the best in the Veilguard game. But yeah, overall, it was just not a brilliant game for a Dragon Age game. And I think that's probably why it makes it on this list. I think if it wasn't a Dragon Age game and for some reason I'd been compelled to play it this year, it probably wouldn't have even made it on the disappointment list, other than the fact that I'd spent those hours in the game and hadn't really enjoyed it too much. So yeah, I think it is the fact that, you know, you expect a higher quality of game from something that is Dragon Age. Also, I want to call myself out because in my review I mentioned that Dragon Age was basically like Assassin's Creed, because that's all EA know how to make. But EA don't make Assassin's Creed. Ubisoft make Assassin's Creed. So unless the devs at EA have been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed, I think it's probably unfair to attribute that aspect to the game. So I will apologize for that, and I don't know what was happening. I had a brain malfunction. So yeah, no, I can't lay that criticism at Veilguard's door, but the rest of it I sort of kind of can. I think as well some of the, or like, yeah, kind of the whole implication in Veilguard around Ferelden being destroyed and the slate being wiped clean for the most part is a little bit silly. I don't much, to be fair, it kind of didn't really like the whole Solus aspect of it anyway. It kind of feels as though the other games were like Origins 2 and then Inquisition, I guess, kind of did break the mold of them being quite separate events with some recurring like flavor characters. And it seems like we've absolutely got almost a direct sequel to Inquisition, but not really one that makes a huge amount of sense. So, yeah, like I say, disappointing. The great thing about it is, though, and I think this is the way to remember, and this is kind of how we're going to approach the second game on this list. It really can't undo what has come before, and I think, yeah, I would be more than happy. And I would go through and play Origins again. I think a lot of people have kind of had the same idea as me and have gone back through and played Origins. So maybe that's one for kind of a few years' time, I suppose, to go back and see how it has held up. I mean, after playing Baldur's Gate 3, I did want to go back and play Origins at that point. So anyway, yes, Dragon Age Veilguard is number 3. And number 2, we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I kind of don't want to be a little bit of a broken record on this new remake Final Fantasy VII, because I will just be going over all the points that I made before it came out and after it came out. And I didn't not obviously, but I didn't play Rebirth. It didn't come out on PC. It's coming out on PC in January. Will I be playing it? I don't know. It's going to be difficult. I think I said I wouldn't because I kind of don't have the willpower, despite everything, to play Rebirth. I watched a full playthrough and I get that, I have my thoughts and feelings on it. And it feels a little bit harsh to put it number 2 in this list because, once again, expectations were really rock bottom. Super rock bottom, because I wasn't expecting, and nor should they either, I suppose. I am one voice in the wilderness, in the far distant wilderness covered by mist and fog and dew, not mountain dew, literal dew. And I didn't much like Remake for lots of reasons. And there's not really been any improvement from the issues that I had with Remake to Rebirth. We're clearly going on our own story and trajectory and kind of like see-through dark materia. Okay, spoilers, all right, spoilers. Is it spoilers, though? Because Final Fantasy VII has been out for a very, very long time. Longer than half the viewer base of this channel. So I kind of think, yeah, you know what happens. What happens, all right? That's it. That's all I'm going to say. If you haven't got to this point, then sorry. But somehow you are watching this video. Anyway, enough berating. I played Final Fantasy VII this year. I did a full playthrough on the channel with mods on PC, of course, because of the mod aspect. And I thoroughly enjoyed the original. I was doing this kind of thing where I was doing like the original, then the remake, then the original, then the remake, in order for me to get through playing the remake. I started playing it when it came out on PS4, and I never got around to finishing all the episodes. In fact, by the time I got to the Hell House, I'd absolutely had enough. I had enough before the Hell House. It was more a case of I need to beat this boss, so I've not left it on a boss fight because some weird pride thing. Anyway, he went down much easier this time round than he did back on the PlayStation 4. But it's not the Hell House that's the problem. Not really. I mean, it's problematic in its own ways, but not for the story, lore implications, battle system, even the graphics. Oh, man, yeah, okay. Am I going to have to go into it? What was disappointing about it? So, disappointing thing is we've gone quite far away from the original Final Fantasy game. We've decided that people who are dead should be alive. We've decided that people who have one personality should have a different personality. We've made people who are really empathetic and understandable complete psychopaths, and probably done the other way, made complete psychopaths completely empathetic, because everything has been flipped. We've made a game that, quite frankly, is still a joy to behold, a tedious grind fest, and which you would think wouldn't be the case, right? Because old RPGs were grindfest in order to level up. Yet this new age of JRPG, if you like, does it worse. I mean, do I even need to get started on like the Chadley stuff? Like this whole arena battle? I know it was put in Final Fantasy X and almost tolerable, maybe a bit intolerable, but it's so cheap and nasty. And yeah, okay, we've added like a card game added back in as part of the story, and there's a mini game to it and all that stuff. Like that's one of the good things, right? I mean, there wasn't one in the original, but you know, I haven't got a heart of stone. You know, there's some bits that I think, they like stuff like that being added in, like adds to the heritage of Final Fantasy. It doesn't take away from it. And unfortunately, Rebirth absolutely takes away from it. There were improvements from remake and 15 to 16. Definitely, 16 is above 15 and 7 remake and Rebirth. But yeah, clearly there is no sympathy to that first game. It is very much we're going to try and take down the original game and make something new for ourselves. It almost feels, if I could be really critical, and this may not be the case, but it very much feels like a vanity project. And I really dislike that. Like, what is it with Sid fancying Aerith's mum, by the way? Where is that anywhere? It just literally makes no sense. And why isn't Sid smoking? Like, I know we don't like smoking. He should have a vape. And where's the iconic line as well about sitting down and drinking your goddamn tea? Man, really annoying, because Sid is like the man, like the character, the badass. And we've even diluted him down. Is it worth it for some bikini costumes on the beach, Aerith and Tifa? No. I have the purity is more important than blooming dead or alive volleyball in my Final Fantasy game. Yes. Okay. So it's disappointment. But once again, I think kind of what I expected. I think the overarching story, because there were some bits of Final Fantasy Rebirth that I did enjoy, because some bits do harken back to the original, and obviously it's very emotional to see to see how the story plays out. Once again, I'm trying not to do spoilers, but once again, no heart of stone. I'm a very big fan of the original story and the original gameplay, but yeah, I think for me, comparing the PlayStation 1 game to these new ones, there is no comparison. It's leagues above the rest. That Final Fantasy original one is about realistically as close to a perfect JRPG as you can get, and the new ones have serious flaws. So yeah, difficult for me anyway. So we'll see what the third part retains. I think I did make a joke at one point that we wouldn't see the third part until 2030 or something. There must be a comment of me saying it. And I don't think it's going to be quite that bad, but I was much closer in my prediction than maybe some people sort of did try and call me out for that particular comment on some of the posts and threads that I made that assertion on. Secretly, in my head, I thought there might be a chance that the only remake gets made. And with the poor sales, still sold very well, poor sales of Rebirth, I guess we'll see. You kind of have to double down at this point. You've made 2 out of the 3. You said you were going to make 3. So, I guess we will see. And at number 1, we have Fallout London. Oh, gosh. So, what am I going to say? What can I say for Fallout London? I think I've made all the points rehashing my 45-minute video into hopefully a couple of minutes. I have gone on, as I always do in these videos. But yeah, so for Fallout London, I had such high hopes, such high expectations. Played it and they were completely dashed in most respects. I think it's more the case that all the stuff I saw was really, really promising. And I think there was always a chance it would fall down on the story, right? I mean, there's a reason that Bethesda are one of the biggest guys in the RPG pond, right? I think it's difficult to tell a story and tell it succinctly in a way that works really well alongside your game. So I have a lot of sympathy to the Fallout London team for that. I really do. I think it's more the case that because it got delayed from being in St. George's Day until much later on in the year, and I know that there was the whole patch thing, and then basically they spent their time, instead of making it work on the new patch, to have a workaround to get it to install on the old patch, which is kind of a little bit of, and not mistruths, because I don't want to be that harsh to them at all. I have a lot of sympathy, but maybe not quite as clear and open, honest communication as possible. But the assertion was that this game was like ready to go. We've spent a lot of time testing it. It was ready to go like 6 months ago. And effectively, like, we've been hit with this issue that has meant that it can't come out. And then when I got my hands on the game, it clearly still needed a lot of work. And a lot of this is very early on in the game as well. And things like the load times and some of the artistic choices for the areas, and sort of that player interaction, player intuition, like, not want to say ease of use, but having things make sense, congruent to the fact that people will have come from Fallout 4. It's using the Fallout 4 engine. It was almost made by people who hadn't played Fallout 4. That's kind of how it felt, or it was just a real jerk to one side or the other because it wants to be its own thing, and it just didn't really work very well. It was quite tedious. A lot of the assets looked really good though. The balance wasn't quite there. The voice acting definitely had some to be desired, and I think that they had a real opportunity to make something really groundbreaking here, and maybe it needed more time in the oven. And I think that because of all the delays to it, based on initial projections, you kind of expect something to be really good when it does come out, and I guess that is where it kind of got me, because all the imagery, the underground bunkers, the mystery of who is Smythe or Smith, whatever his name is, and going through the story in an area that I wouldn't say I'm fully familiar with, but I have been to, and kind of, yes, a great idea plagued by technical and writing issues, I suppose, is what I would say. Like, a lot of the sound balancing as well was not quite there. I don't know. I'm interested to see what the feedback was from the playtesters, because I think that there is definitely a lot that could have been done to improve that initial experience, particularly given the fact that they had that delay in between the first initial release date and then when it did actually come out. So yeah, and I think I gave that game about a 6 out of 10, and I gave that mainly for the effort and the art and the idea. But ultimately, it wasn't a fun game for me, and I was really disappointed because there was a chance. I think we all tend to have like our own bias, right? Like personal bias towards like, oh yeah, there's, and particularly me, because I do think about my like top game of the year throughout most of the year. Like, I think about it before, like, oh, where do I think this is going to come? And I thought there's a real chance, because I really love Fallout. And I really like the Fallout 4, and I like the Fallout 4 engine. I think Fallout 4 was one of my games of the year in a previous year, and I was thinking, oh, this might be, like, this has got to be a contender for game of the year. There's the right circumstances for it this year, and it's made as a passion project and all of this, and you think like this has got a real chance of being like one of the definitive Fallout games, and it's not made by Bethesda. Or Obsidian, of course. And you kind of fumbled it. And it's really disappointing. I really am disappointed. I wanted to love it. I went in and I wanted to give it as much chance as possible. And I kept playing it for 5 or 6 hours longer than I wanted to. And to find some of the redeeming features was difficult. I had moments that I enjoyed, of course. And, like Tower Bridge was really nice, like incredible, really incredible, genuinely really incredible, and some of the enemies as well, really good, very innovative, But it's innovative, different, I guess, like clearly made, made from the ground up. So, yeah, I think that for me is kind of, and I do feel a bit jaded by it as well, having to revisit it and rethink about it. But still, there you go. That's my top 5 disappointments of 2024. I don't make these every year, as mentioned at the start. I only make them when I have enough to go on. And unfortunately, this year, I did just about, trying to stretch out the boundaries a little bit. But yeah, I think mainly for... No, all of them. All of them are legitimate, as I think about it. But yeah. So let me know what you thought. Did you agree? I imagine there may be some in the comments who didn't agree with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And that's fine. You can enjoy it. I'll enjoy the original. You enjoy the new ones. Fine by me. Not a problem. Same with Dragon Age. You like Veilguard? That's fine. I'll stay with Origins. But maybe I should go and play Dragon Age 2. Because I feel like maybe I gave that a hard time before. I'll give it the first half hour and see what I think, particularly after coming from playing Veilguard this year. But yeah, I think probably the main thing being is I have, but for the majority of the year, I haven't had a lot of time to spend on playing games. And if I end up finding myself playing a game that I'm not enjoying, then that then becomes really difficult. And it does feel like a waste of time. It does feel like a lost opportunity for me not to be enjoying what I'm playing. So, hence why I did my 2 reviews halfway through the games. And yeah, if people want to comment and say, "Oh, you only played it for 10 hours and did a nearly hour-long review video," yes, because I take this kind of thing very seriously. I want to enjoy these games. I don't play it not to enjoy it. So if I have to end it. If I have to end it early, I want to give a comprehensive reason to myself, not for you guys, to myself, why I can't or why I don't want to play it anymore. And yeah, it's like it genuinely is a personal integrity thing, nothing more than that. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. Do let me know what you think, genuinely, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.